Imagine if the money in your wallet had a superpower, that behind every dollar, euro, or yen, there wasn't just faith in an economy, but a tangible, gleaming bar of gold sitting in a vault. It sounds like a financial utopia, right? But that's precisely the system designed in 1944 in a quiet New Hampshire town called Bretton Woods. This system made the US dollar the planet's primary currency and America the world's financial policeman. It forged order from the chaos of World War II. But today, this system faces a powerful challenger. China, which in 1944 wasn't even a full player at that negotiating table, is now issuing a challenge. It doesn't just want to play by the old rules. It wants to rewrite them completely. Why is the system that dominated for 80 years suddenly under threat? And what does that mean for every one of us? This is the story of how the financial world as we know it is preparing for a revolution. The first act of our story is the creation of the system itself. July 1944. The war wasn't over, but the Allies were already planning for the future. 730 delegates from 44 nations gathered at the luxurious Mount Washington Hotel in Bretton Woods. Their mission? To prevent another economic collapse like the Great Depression. A concrete example here is the very architecture of the system. Its chief engineer was the American economist Harry Dexter White. His plan was simple and brilliant. All world currencies would be pegged to the US dollar, and the dollar itself would be pegged to gold at a fixed price, 35 per ounce. Think of it as a financial solar system. Gold was the sun. The dollar was Earth, with all other currencies orbiting around it. This provided unprecedented stability. You could always exchange French francs for dollars and dollars for gold. The clear takeaway from this act is this. Bretton Woods was a genius American project that established financial order for decades, making the dollar the world's reserve currency and providing global economic stability. But like any system, it had its flaws. And to smoothly transition to the next act, we have to ask, what happens when the planet Earth itself, the dollar, starts to wobble? The second act of this drama is the decline of the Bretton Woods system. The irony is that its success became the cause of its downfall. As global trade grew, the world needed more and more dollars. But the US couldn't just print dollars endlessly because each one was supposed to be backed by gold. This created a paradox that economist Robert Triffin called the Triffin dilemma. To provide the world with liquidity, America had to run payment deficits, but this very act undermined confidence in the dollar. A concrete example of the system's collapse was the Nixon shock. On August 15, 1971, President Richard Nixon announced in a televised address the temporary suspension of the dollar's convertibility into gold. This temporary measure became permanent. Why did he do it? Countries like France and Germany had begun mass exchanging their dollar reserves for American gold, and the vaults of Fort Knox were rapidly depleting. Nixon pulled the plug on the gold standard to save US reserves. The clear conclusion here is this. The system fell because its foundation, the gold backing of the dollar, stopped working. The dollar survived, but it became a pure fiat currency, propped up by faith and US military power. The world moved to floating exchange rates. And this smoothly leads us to the key question. If the old system collapsed half a century ago, why is China so vehemently attacking it today? The answer is that its shadow still defines the rules of the game. This brings us to the third and most pressing act, the challenge from China. China isn't just unhappy with the dollar. It's unhappy with the entire architecture behind it. The IMF, the World Bank institutions born at Bretton Woods, where the US holds veto power. A concrete example of China's ambition is its Belt and Road Initiative. This is a massive infrastructure project where China funds the construction of ports, roads, and railways in dozens of countries across Asia, Africa, and Europe. But there's a catch. Often the loans are issued not in dollars, but in Chinese yuan. So China isn't just building roads, it's creating an entire trade ecosystem tied to its own currency. It's retracing America's steps after World War II, when the Marshall Plan also helped cement the dollar's dominance. The clear takeaway from this part is, China isn't trying to smash the system in one blow. It's methodically building a parallel financial universe with its own rules, its own development banks, and its own digital currency, aiming to offer the world an alternative to dollar hegemony in the future. So, what does all this mean for us? The 1944 Bretton Woods Agreement isn't just a page from a history book, it's the key to understanding today's financial battles. Its main legacy, the dollar's status as the global reserve currency, is now being contested. We are on the brink of a potential shift from a unipolar financial world ruled by the dollar to a multipolar one where the dollar, the euro, and the yuan will compete. This won't happen tomorrow, but the trend is clear. For the average person, this could mean more market volatility, shifting currency exchange rates, and perhaps in the distant future, the option to hold savings in new assets. So what should you do? Don't panic, but don't ignore these shifts either. Stay curious. Pay attention not just to the dollar's exchange rate, but also to what the People's Bank of China is doing. Read about the digital yuan. Understanding these global shifts is half the battle. The other half is diversification. Don't put all your eggs in one basket, especially if that basket is a single currency or a single economy. The financial world we've known for the last 80 years is changing, and to not be left behind, we need to understand the rules of the old game while keeping a close eye on the shape of the new one. The story of Bretton Woods teaches us one thing: no system lasts forever. The only question is, who and what will replace it?